Well, we're hoping tonight that Ian's going to share some of his thoughts on his latest standalone thriller, Doors Open. Ian, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was about the main character in this particular book. Mike Mackenzie, your main character. He's tall, dark, handsome, and fabulously wealthy. Is there anything else you've got in common with him?
We both collect art. I mean, that's the one thing I do with the money I make, is I like 20th century Scottish art, and I do buy pieces occasionally. And I had one of the most fun things about doing the book was getting to sort of make up artists, and sort of mix up fictitious artists with real artists, and real works of art with fictitious works of art. It came about, that book, several things happened. One was I'd been to Doors Open Day in Edinburgh. One extraordinary thing, one day a year they unlock this huge collection of art and say to the public, come away in. If you were going to rip this stuff off, which day would you choose? You would choose Doors Open Day.
Indeed.
Then a mate of mine and I were sitting in a cafe in Edinburgh, and we were saying, wouldn't it be great to do a really good heist movie? We're big fans of heists in fiction and in film. Wouldn't it be great to do a Scottish heist movie? And it'd be like Ocean's 11, it'd be the cream of Scottish acting talent down the generations. So we I would have the Professor of Art, and that would be Sean Connery, and the self-made businessman would be Ewan McGregor, and the art student would be James McAvoy, and we just went on like that.
Good choices.
But nothing came of it. I mean, it was just one of those chats that you have. And then the New York Times emailed me and said, would you like to write a serial for our Sunday magazine? We're looking for a spy story. And I said, well, I'm not really that interested in writing a spy story. What about a heist? And they said, oh, that sounds good fun. So Doors Open was written specifically for the New York Times as a 15-part serial. And then my British publisher said, we like the story, but it's awfully short, because it was about 100 pages. And said, can you beef it up a bit? Which was fantastic, because I'd really enjoyed spending time with these characters, but they were little more than thumbnail sketches, because, a kind of weekly serial doesn't give you enough time to get into complexities of characterisation.
But they really do come to life.
I love them, and he's gone a long way from just being Ewan McGregor. I like Mike a lot, and the Professor's gone a long way from being just a part for Sean Connery.
This is a crime novel without a murder. Did you deliberately set out to keep the bodies count to zero?
No, but it was my it wasn't until we had the publication dinner in London, and my publisher stood up and said that. He said, Ian has written something extraordinary here. He's written a crime novel with no murder, and we were trying to think of comparable crime novels in the recent past.
Yeah, so was I, and I couldn't think of any.
I can't really think of, because I remember it's not just a murder, but usually the murder's around about page 1. My agent years ago in America said to me, the reason, Ian, why your books don't sell as well in America as they do in the UK is because sometimes the murder doesn't happen until page 90 or 100. He said, we like our murders right at the start. And I read a lot of American crime fiction. Well, that's pretty true. Usually within the first few pages you've got a dead body. So I started doing that. I started having dead bodies nearer the start of the books.
But this is an altogether gentler type of novel, although it's an art heist, and there are violent people in the book. But it's set in a much more genteel part of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy the change?
Well, I thought McCall Smith's had it his own way long enough.
Well, you didn't put him in
I've not put him in a book yet.
But you've been in his.
I've been in 3 of his books at the last count, I think. 3 of the Scotland Street stories, which I think shows a positive imagination really on his part. No, I keep saying to him, Sandy, revenge is a dish best served cold, so I'm biding my time. It is. I mean, it's that Edinburgh that, if it's about art, it's got to be an Edinburgh. It's got to be that Edinburgh, and that's a different Edinburgh from the Edinburgh that Rebus in the past has usually found himself coming up against. I mean, there are these 2 cities. There's a sort of genteel, cultured city. That's everywhere, And then there's a sort of underbelly. You don't have to scratch much to find the underbelly. And that was the thing I liked about it, was these guys are completely out of their depth. They're very much Elstree studio criminals. The Lavender Hill Mob or something. But to pull off the heist, they need to go to the underworld, and they just happen to have an entree. They have somebody they can talk to. And that turns out to be very, very bad for all of them.
Did you trust your instinct, your intuition as you're writing? I know I do.
Yeah, I do. I do very much. I mean, I said to my wife before I started this book, because this is the first of a 2-book deal, and they don't have to be Rebus novels, they don't have to be crime novels, they can be anything I want. And she said, well, do you fancy trying to write something completely different? And I went, yeah, that'd be great. I'll try and write something completely different. And I just thought about it. And the stories I was coming up with were crime stories. You know, I must be hardwired into thinking like that. I can't write about shiny, happy people. And I can't write about, you know, people having affairs in NW3 or whatever. I want to write about crime, because I think crime tells us quite a lot about the world we're living in. I mean, as I'm sure you would agree.
I totally agree.
You know, I
with
mean,
that.
it's why contemporary crime writers these days write what they write, is because they're telling the kinds of stories that say so much about the world that they live in.
Did you find writing this standalone very liberating, that word liberating again, after the 19 Rebus books?
Yeah, I mean, I always get asked this question about, you know, are you mourning for Rebus? Do you miss him? And I say I've just been far too busy to miss him.
So no rest for Ian Rankin,
No.
but maybe a rest for Rebus.
No, well, definitely a rest for Rebus, but it's funny writing this book. It is funny writing this book because I can feel his presence. I mean, he's not there on the page, but it's like, I know, and the detectives in the book know, he's just around the corner somewhere. He's not gone. No, I had a funny story actually. I was in America on tour in October last year, and this guy came and he gave me a letter, a photocopy of a letter. He said, "Here, read that when you get a minute." It's from a friend of mine, and his friend, also American, had gone to Edinburgh or been in Scotland on holiday and gone to Edinburgh to do the kind of Rebus pilgrimage, and he'd found himself standing outside St Leonard's police station, and for a laugh, he thought, "I'll go in and ask to see him." So he walked in and he pressed the buzzer, and the cop came out and said, "Yes, oh, can I see D.I. Rebus, please?" And the cop went, just wait 2 minutes, sir, and went away. And the guy's going, what's going on? So eventually the guy comes out, unlocks the door. "If you come with me, please." Takes him down a corridor to the end of the corridor, and there's an office, and on the door it says D.I. John Rebus. Knocks, waits, puts his head round the door. He said, he's not there, just go and wait for him. He goes in. The room is full of Rebus stuff, just
That's
full of
fantastic.
stuff. And he sits there for a minute, and then the guy knocks again, comes in, he says, "I'm sorry, sir, D.I. Rebus is up in Aberdeen today, can't see you. Would you mind signing the visitor's book?" And there's dozens and dozens of names in this visitor's book.
That's hysterical. That's
And
brilliant.
I'd never heard of this.
You'd never heard of
I've
this?
never heard of
Did
this.
they not have to ask you permission
And,
to do this?
well, I don't know. You see, I still don't know if it's true. I mean, he could be winding his mate up.
Right.
So
if
what
I
I've got
went
to
down
do
to
is
St Leonard's next week and
I've got
knocked
to
on
go
the
to
door.
St Leonard's. I'm going to have to go to St Leonard's.
No, you
and
have to
ask.
send somebody.
Yeah, it's
Have
true.
to
I'll
send
send somebody.
yeah.
But I just thought, how weird is that? And he'd sent his mate
Brilliant.
photographs of Rebus's office from the
So
outside, not
funny.
the inside. So I mean, it could be a setup. But I thought, I mean, part of me thought that's really fantastic and amazing, and part of me thought, shouldn't that room be being used to, for, you know, something better than that? You know, maybe stick a cop in there and solve some crimes.